It is such a delight to be here and to see some new friends and some old. Not old by age, I have to say. So thank you for this lovely invitation. And yes, I think in the times that we're living in, the voice of the child and the rights are so, I think it can't be a more urgent time to talk about this topic. So a little brief about the work we're doing in this area. Actually, I mean, a little bit of a background. My life didn't start by wanting to do anything with children's rights till I became a mother. And that's really how my interest in education started. So when my son was all of 5 years old, I think I reacted to a system that rewarded compliance over conversation, to keep our children quiet and to be good. But I think as a designer, I turned this crisis into an opportunity. And I had the luxury of asking the question, what if? Because I didn't come from education, so I didn't have any rules. So the question really was, what if we invite children into a learning journey rather than designing for them? Could we have them speak to us and design a learning journey with them? So when I started my Riverside School in 2001, that was really the quest. And we used design thinking principles to create a very simple framework called Feel, Imagine, Do, and Share. We call it FIDS for kids, to get learners to unleash their student agency, but always starting with empathy, feel. And we call this the I can mindset. So once we saw that the impact of this mindset, Riverside, we took it to the world. And when I launched Design for Change in 2009, to get children to use this framework to change their worlds. So children now in over 60 countries are using this to, change the weight of school bags or stop child marriage. That's really the power of what I feel the student voice does. Well, over the last 20 years, it's been such a pleasure to witness these change stories. I've become a storyteller, and that's all I do across the world, just be a champion for our children's rights. But I think what's really important is I think children are recognizing themselves as not mere spectators of life, but I think participants and overseers of change, and that they can make the world a little bit more just, a little bit more beautiful, and a little bit more equitable. So that's really the work with Riverside and Design for Change. I think coming from India, I think the diversity and inequity that one encounters compels one to look at rights not in isolation, right? I mean, otherwise rights can be seen as deserving of independent of whatever I have to do to actually deserve or earn the right. And so many of the majority of our children now I see across the world, the awareness of the rights has been compromised. Just like Nico said, I don't even know my worldview. I don't even know that I had access to this understanding of right. But for those who do, and for where there has been rights as a part of the conversation, as a part of shaping their education, then it is imperative that the right is not in isolation, but has to be balanced and shaped by the duties. And I, of course, come from the land of Gandhi, and he's hanging around watching me every single day. And he had something wonderful to say. He said, I would only enjoy the rights whose duties I perform. So I believe that it's important to have this idea of entitlement and privilege to kind of be shaped by what do I do to deserve it and earn it. So for instance, right to healthy food. Well, the duty is I will not waste and I will have gratitude. Or the right for play, and I will include. So you have to kind of balance that your right is, you can enjoy it if you fulfill the duty to it. So I think at Riverside, I think it has to go hand in hand, because a lot of our children come from an idea of a certain privilege, a certain awareness that I do have a dream, I have a right, I have this thing. But the entitlement cannot be their understanding of their worldview. So we really give immersive experiences for children to understand their rights and duties in perspective, and to recognize that they have to uphold that and for the other. So it's not just for self. It is not just the right for myself, but it also is to do right by the rights. And I think that's really an important distinction that I would like to keep having when I hear the word right. For me, I feel that there's a slight, it could give a little arrogance in the fact that, I deserve it, but no, I have to also earn it. And I have to earn it also for the others. So I think for me, duty is a very, very big balance that one has to play with it.
Can you develop, because you told me that yesterday and it was very nice to understand, the kind of trainee your students are doing to make sure that they understand that duties exist and they have to combine everything. Because it's interesting to see the change of the switch of the behavior.
Yes, I'll give you one example. And since Nico was talking about child labor, one of the experiences our 10-year-olds all go through is the idea of child rights and the idea of exploitation and how rights are taken away from some of the most vulnerable. So they go through a child rights experience where they have to roll incense sticks for 3 days. Okay, so they start the experience as if, oh, yes, I'm going to roll 100 incense sticks and it's all a challenge. And I kid you not, in the first half hour of that experience, their body is aching, their shoulders are paining. They feel that sense of, burden of, I don't have right to play. And suddenly it settles in that they could have the great luxury of going home at the end of this experience, having a bath, speaking to their parent, having a warm hug from the parents. But so many of our children don't. And by the end of the third day of that experience, there's a massive, not just intellectual understanding, but a bodily understanding of rights and duties. So your whole body has to be involved in understanding your worldview, not just an intellectual understanding. So I feel that's something that we do at Riverside. And I'm coming back to Andreas's understanding that so much of the education is so compliant that children don't use their body to understand where they fit in with the world. So yes, so a lot of it is an immersive experience to get perspective.
Yeah.
The only word I have to say is it's high time. I mean, enough of the conversations. Let's just get down, like Francois said, in the middle road, and let's just be.
Yeah.
So I think for me, of course, Gandhi has always been my inspiration, but I often go to this lovely quote by David Baldwin, who is actually an American novelist. He said, children have never been very good at listening to their adults, but they never fail to imitate them. So I would just say, be worthy of being imitated. Be worthy of those kind of role models where you live your life with a little bit more courage, a little bit more empathy, a little bit more kindness every single day. Because they are looking at that and they're learning that over everything else. So I keep saying, you can't be shy or diplomatic as a champion of a child. You have to be totally shameless. And you have to have a sense of humor. So you have to live your life with that joy, because contagious is a good word. So you should be very, very contagious.